morning, Bardstown and Nelson County, and welcome to another edition of Bradford and Brooks here on WBRT. Jim Brooks here with my co-host, Margie Bradford. Good morning, Margie.
Good morning, Jim.
Well, man, we have a beautiful Wednesday morning looking at us outside the WBRT
gorgeous.
studio.
Absolutely gorgeous.
And it's, according to my WeatherBug app on my phone, it's 72 degrees.
I'd say that's just well nigh perfect.
I would agree with you 100%. Good. Ought to roll out the grill.
Yeah.
Cook up some lunch. But,
Well, come on over. My driveway is ready. You can park there, and we'll grill away.
But do you have a grill?
Yes, I do, actually.
Oh, the barbecue grill in the backyard? Or
No, it's just one of those little round things.
Okay.
You know.
Well,
You don't need a lot to grill something.
Well, I'm sorry, I don't have any charcoal with me today. but we'll
That's all right. I can find charcoal.
we'll plan that for another
Okay,
Wednesday.
all right.
We've got business to take care
We
of
do.
first.
We do.
All right, Margie and I are continuing our series of interviews with candidates for office that are going to be on the November ballot, and that day is fast approaching.
It is.
But today we're joined by Kenny Downs, and Kenny Downs is a candidate for 5th District Magistrate in the northeastern area of the county. The 5th District Magistrate seat, it was an open seat because the current magistrate, Eric Shelburne, is seeking judge executive office. So that's an open office, and Kenny is one of the two candidates pursuing that office. And good morning, Kenny.
Good morning.
Well, thanks for coming in today.
Thank you all.
And well, Kenny, tell our listeners a little bit. Now, people in the 5th District probably are very familiar with you, but our WBRT listeners might want to know a little bit more about who you are and what kind of experience you bring to bear on the fiscal court.
Okay. Well, thanks WBRT for having me, and thank you guys. I'm a little bit under the weather. I've been fighting a respiratory problem for about 5 days, so I might be cleaning my throat, and I apologize for that. I was born in Nelson County, Flagey Hospital, not the new one, the old one, of course, and grew up on a farm out at Botland. Worked on a farm. Worked various jobs with other farmers out in that area, because it used to be farmers used to help each other, and you would go and work on one farm one day and go to another farm the next day, and that's how I started my working career. And then I graduated from Nelson County High School. I married my wife, which will be 43 years tomorrow.
Wow.
When I get out of
Happy
here,
anniversary.
I got to go get something for that. So anyway, we don't have any children. My wife is self-employed. She's a half owner of a business called Hair Company. Mm-hmm. A little funny story, I know a lot of her customers, and whenever I see one of them, I'll go up to them and I'll say, I don't know who does your hair, but it looks awesome, you know? So I get a kick out of that. But I've never seen anybody that loved going to work more than she does, and she's been doing it 45, 46 years. Mm-hmm. And I keep telling her she needs to retire, but she says she's not going to retire anyway soon. So anyway.
Well, listen, as one of our customers, I don't want her to retire.
Well, you look very well.
Well, thank you.
But so anyway,
I'm setting him up for that.
After graduating from Nelson County High School, I worked in local groceries, Clyde Super Value. Probably nobody doesn't remember that, but the best thing about them was need a ride, call Clyde. So I started working there, and I moved up to assistant manager in produce, and then not long after that, I went to work for my dad in construction, and I'm going to get to that a little bit later on, and that's where I got a lot of my experience in construction work, and I think that coincides with being a magistrate, part of the magistrate job. And then I'll tell you, I go back a little bit. I worked for a fertilizer company, and all I did was put up hay, and I made $8 a day. And that wasn't 8 hours. That was from sun up to sundown. And at lunch, you spent $3 for lunch. So if you figure that was $5. But on Friday, when I got my check for $40, I thought I was a rich man because, gas was like 17, 18 cents a gallon. And,
right.
But anyway, that kind of got my working career going because that was tough, and I wasn't very big, and the hay bales weighed more than I did, but I stuck with it. And So anyway, after that, I went to work for my father and learned how to do building bridges and culverts and just anything that has to deal with concrete, paved ditches. My wife wouldn't even let me in the house when I got home because I'd be so dirty and nasty. And because when you're working for your dad, he made you work. I didn't get any special treatment. But the thing about construction is, if it rains 3 days a week, you don't get paid but for 2 days.
Right.
And my dad didn't give me any special treatment because my check wasn't any bigger than anybody else's. But I did live at home, so that did help some. But anyway, we built the 275 bypass through Cincinnati. And I tell this story a lot because people can't believe it. I did this, but I did. But there was 4 of us, and we went back and forth every day to almost Cincinnati and worked all day, and then we'd come back home. And then by the time that you cleaned up, got something to eat, took a shower, and went to bed, it was time to get back up. We left at 3:30 in the morning. We got home 7:30 at night.
Wow.
The funny part about this is we were in a Pinto Ford, a little bitty car, 4 of us. We had a flat one morning. We got out and held the car up while we changed the tire. But anyway, my dad would make us drive all the way almost to Cincinnati, even though it was raining. And we'd drive all the way up there, and it came time to work. He said, well, it might not be raining at work time. And he'd say, well, we're not working today. So we get back in the car and come all the way back home. But anyway, I can't. We did that for a whole summer. That was, I wouldn't do that today for nothing. But anyway, I joined the Nelson County Fire Department in 1972, I think it was. And I spent 16 years on the fire department as a volunteer. I started out as a fireman. And when I left, because when I got on the police department, it just didn't, both jobs didn't coincide. So I left the fire department in 1988, and I got on Jefferson County Police, and I spent 20 years on Jefferson County. And but I've been in at least 46 years of public service. Mm-hmm. And at the present time, I'm not doing anything. I'm retired. I left Bloomfield about 4 years ago. I was a Bloomfield police chief. It was one of the best jobs I ever had. And getting back to that, I did a lot of things for Bloomfield. I had speed limits changed, and that was a state highway. Mm-hmm. Coming in from Taylorsville at the top of the hill to the Baptist church, I had the speed limit changed to 25 miles an hour. And if you know Bloomfield very well, there's not enough room on Main Street to open a car door. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I had that changed. I had the speed limit changed from Chaplin at the top of the hill into town. Mm-hmm. Not all the way in town. I couldn't get the state to change it all the way, but changed it to 35 because of the kids going back and forth to school and walking on the sidewalk. I just thought it would be a lot safer to slow cars down because, as you all know, if the speed limit's 35, people are going to do 45. So that's just the way it is. I cleaned up a lot of properties. I was involved in the cleanup and of 3 meth labs, and I did had stop signs put up in a lot of areas that had nothing. And I also made runs in Chaplin and Fairfield, even though there were some people that thought that I ought to stay in the city, but your badge has no boundaries. So, I made runs in both those cities, and I met a lot of people, and I have to say that the Bloomfield job was probably one of the best jobs I ever had. Mm-hmm. I really missed working over there, but I met a lot of good people, and there was people, if I stopped a car, you could look in my rearview mirror and there'd be 1 or 2 cars behind me that people would make sure I was okay. Mm-hmm. When you get that, you're doing something right. So I'll never forget that. So anyway, but that's a little bit about me. Don't have any children. Had 2 dogs, but dogs don't outlive humans, so they've since passed away. And other than that, I just don't have much to do but mow grass, and when I get that done, I'm a free man. So I thought, well, maybe this is the perfect thing. I had a couple people call me and ask me if I'd be interested in doing it, and I got to thinking about it, and I thought, man, it'd be a perfect job for me because I'm experienced in construction work. And, and I've also, one other thing, I've also developed 2 waterways in Nelson County, and had them passed by the state. I had to do diagrams, I had to get them bonded, and they both work. So that's another positive of being a magistrate. I can look at a road and see what needs to be done to fix it, repair it. And people don't understand, if you put a new road in, it's a dam. That's all a new road is. It's a dam, and it's a dam on both sides. So you got to decide where the water's going to go on both sides of that road. And I've been involved in all that, so I've got the experience as far as the construction part of it. Now, the rest of it would be, I've owned a business, so I'm familiar with budgets, really familiar with budgets, and that part I know a lot about, and I'm kind of conservative. So I don't like spending money. I want to keep taxes at a very minimum because we all pay them, and it's hard on everybody right now, and that's just part of my little platform. So,
Well, Kenny, I'll tell you, the fiscal court met yesterday. I don't know. I didn't turn around to see if you were up there yesterday or not. But if you were there, they had discussions about 3 different bridge projects, and I thought, well, that sort of experience you would bring to bear could be very helpful. At least having that knowledge on fiscal court about what was being done.
Right. Well, and that's, the same thing in that category is if you have a construction company that bids on a bridge, and I know pretty much what it takes to build one, and I can look at a map of plans and pretty much tell what it's going to cost to do that project, and that's got to be a plus. So. I don't know as anybody else that's got that experience as far as doing that kind of work.
Right, and I also think your law enforcement background, especially in this era of concerns about budgeting and paying law enforcement competitive wages, I think you bring that background would be helpful for at least understanding all the issues at play.
Well, I understand the pay for the police. I've been retired 13 years. I haven't had a raise on my retirement in 13 years. We used to get 5%, and then it went to 3%, then it went to 1%, and now it's 0. And for 13 years, I got a 1% raise my first year I was retired. Haven't had anything since. And I don't know as we ever will. But I know the powers to be in Frankfurt have had some raises, but they kind of forgot about the old first responders that are retired. And, like I said, I did it for 46 years. I was a first responder. But no, I understand. I don't think anybody makes enough money for what they do. But, you got a piece of pie, and you got to take slices out of it, and you got to keep those slices even. And if you can't pay Peter, and take from Paul, if that's the right statement.
Right.
But I feel for the police because we used to hire a lot of state troopers because we made more money than the state police, and we got probably 4 or 5 from Nelson County at that time. And I realized how how somebody's going to go to another job if they make more money. And my dad always said if somebody leaves for more money, he doesn't blame them a bit. And we had 40 or 50 people working for us at one time. So, but I understand that problem.
Well, Kenny, the Judge Executive Dean Watts has frequently had reminded the court, especially when talking about budgets, that the costs at the jail are always increasing. The cost of operating EMS continue to increase. And at some point, there may come a time when there's got to be thoughts about improving the county's revenue system or, increasing some income somewhere. What are your thoughts on the county budget as it stands moving forward?
Let me, I've got some numbers here that I found. There's right at 200 county employees. That's a whole lot for, payroll and insurance and everything else that comes with it. And let me find my notes here. Okay. In 2013 fiscal year, the jail budget was $668,000. Now the jail budget's $2.5 million. That's in 10, 11 years. EMS. EMS was 1.8 in 2013, and EMS is $4 million now. Now, EMS, I've got it somewhere. EMS collects about $2.4 million of that back for the insurance and Medicare and Medicaid.
Right.
So that's kind of off limits a little bit. And the landfill in 2013 was 2.2 million, and now it's 13 million. But the landfill's got heavy equipment. You know, if an engine goes out of one of those things, my Lord, it costs a lot of money to fix that. And of course, the landfill gets money back too, some. So that's not included in that amount. But I was talking to Joey Pruitt this morning, and I'm going to tell you, EMS, we are so fortunate to have EMS like we've got. There's other counties that don't even come close to what we've got. And the reason I can say that, because being a policeman and a fireman, I've been on a lot of runs with a lot of them here. They're very professional. They know what they're doing. They treat people. I've had the bad experience of having to call them for my mother, and they were just awesome. And you know, people when they're sick and don't feel good, they're not in their best humor, and they have to treat them, you know, as such. And but I've been on wrecks with the EMS, and it's unbelievable how many lives they've saved that people don't have a clue about. I mean, and you know, if they are unfortunate to lose a life, they have to live with that. They don't forget about that when the clock time, you know, it's time for them to go home.
Right.
It's just I've seen them work. I've seen Joey. I've seen him do some things on an accident scene that was unbelievable. And him and Eva do a stand-up job out there, and we are so fortunate to have them. But Joey was telling me this morning, in 2020, his fuel cost was $45,000. He said this year it's going to be over $100,000.
Wow.
Narcon, you know, that's pretty.
Yeah, you've got to have a lot of that.
You hear a lot about that. That Narcon is in 2020 was $48. Narcon today is $105. That's how much it's gone up. So where do you know, those costs? When everything goes up, fuel prices, a lot of the ambulances are diesel. They might all be diesel, I don't know, but diesel fuel's kind of high. But, you know, you have to absorb those costs somehow or another. But the county has done a great job in keeping taxes low, and I think the budget for this year is about the same as last year, which is awesome, that we don't have to pay any more taxes. So, and that's my goal. I'm right in there. I don't, unless it's a necessity, then I'm not for raising taxes 1 cent, so.
Now you're running for magistrate. One of your jobs would be to kind of oversee the maintenance of county roads within the 5th District. And the magistrates have had a couple of different ways of on fiscal court of dividing up the money they distribute for paving. And you know, as the cost of laid blacktop go up, you get less and less coverage for your bang for your buck.
Right.
Are you satisfied with the system they're using now, as far as dividing up the money?
I know they each get a certain amount of money to maintain the roads, and then I know there's contingent money if you were to run out, and I know they help each other.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if it's not broke, you know, then why fix it? That's something that I'd have to look at, and that goes back to my construction, because I built roads, and you know, I might be able to come up with something that's a different way of doing something that might be a little bit cheaper. But I think that the way they're doing everything right now, as long as everybody's getting their fair share, I think it's okay.
Well, I think that they've that's pretty much the way it's worked. I know that of course Bernard Ice in District 3 has a smaller district. And I know there's times when he's helped out another district that had greater needs, with some of his funds, let the other district use it. And so it's kind of they kind of try to take care of each other. And as you mentioned, contingency money, and then I think the judge has some discretionary funding that he can apply in areas where where there's a real need. So.
You know, it's all about safety. I mean, it doesn't mean the 5th District. I mean, you got the whole county that you got to worry about. But if you get down and look at the bottom line, everything you do is about safety. And that's another thing that I wanted to mention. I'm not just concerned about county roads. What if a state road gets a pothole in it? Well, you know, call me. If I'm a magistrate, call me. I'll get that fixed. I've dealt with the state. I've dealt with E-Town. I know the engineers. It doesn't have to be a county problem if it's a safety issue,
Right.
you know, call me. I'll get it fixed. I promise you, I'll get it fixed. So, but anyway, it's most time it's anything comes down to it's all about safety for the citizens of Nelson County. So,
Kenny, if you were a magistrate, are there any changes that you'd like to see fiscal court make in how they approach business or how they do business?
no, you know, I've made a few of the meetings. There's one thing. This is probably not going to be too popular with some other magistrates, but this is what I will do if I'm magistrate. I know that during the meetings, they always get the department heads to say what they did.
Mm-hmm.
And as a magistrate, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to tell you what I did in the last 2 weeks or that month. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to say, this is what I've done, this is what I took care of, this is the roads I've rode in, this is the problems I found. And I've noticed that some, you know, the magistrates don't, some of them do, even in their conversation, they talk about what they've had done. But for me personally, if I was fortunate enough to get this job, I'm going to tell you what I did
You're
when I was a
going to be
magistrate.
accountable, huh?
I will very much be accountable. And I promise you, you call me, when I get this, if I'm fortunate enough to get this job, I will have a pocketbook with me. And if I don't have that with me, and you ask me about it, I'll give you a $10 bill. That's not buying votes, but I'll give you a $10 bill because that will stay with me from the day I get this job to the day I give it up. And I hope to keep it for a long time. And I think if I could get in there and show everybody what I can do, I'm hoping to have it for a long time as long as my health holds out. So, but I'll tell you one thing, Margie, you get back to that. I'll tell you one thing that I'd like to see, and this goes along with safety. Nelson County Fire Department has part-time members only during the daytime. There's nobody there at nighttime. And I've talked to Chief Billy Mangley about this, and he told me he would like to see a full-time nighttime shift.
Right.
You gotta, you know, the fire department's not just putting out fires. I mean, you got people that in wrecks that, you know, if you have a wreck on the Bluegrass Parkway and you have to wait for a fireman to get out of bed and go to the firehouse and get the fire truck and then get to the location while you're trapped or a family member, whatever, that's just ridiculous. And we've looked at some costs on that, and this is all preliminary, and he's going to come to one of the meetings in February, and we're going to talk about this more. But it'll cost the taxpayers about $60. Now that's a preliminary price. I don't know exactly, but they'll save about $1,000 on their insurance. So it's, I mean, it's just, it's just ridiculous not to do it.
Right.
And maybe it doesn't have to be a full crew, but to at least have somebody there that can get everything ready. Because minutes matter. You can ask anybody. And,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, you're dealing with fire, yes.
Fire and you know, like I said, a wreck or whatever. And, you know, so if you've got a family member that's trapped out here in their car wreck, you hope somebody will get there quick. And
Right.
I've been on the unfortunate side to have a house fire, and that big red truck was the prettiest thing I ever seen in my life. But years ago on the fire department, the only thing that we had to let us know we had a fire was that big siren.
Yeah.
And I think I always said this, I thought, well, I think they blow that big whistle to let the firemen know there's a fire, but they also let the public know that there's, get out of the way because all these firemen are coming in. And, you know, everybody complained about how we drive, but then the first thing they'd say when we get to a fire scene, well, what took you so long, you know? So it was a catch-22, but that's back in the old days. That's the only thing you had was that fire whistle to let you know. Now, we had big Plectron monitors that we kept at the house,
Right.
but we didn't have anything on us that let us know that there was a fire, except for that siren. When I was out at Botland, I'd hear that whistle sometime if it was a clear day, and I'd go out on one of the outbuildings and sit on it and think I might be able to see the fire truck go by. And one time in Woodlawn, it went by, and boy, you thought I won the lottery. I just couldn't believe it. But anyway, but I guess you can tell the fire department was kind of top priority for me other than police. So.
All right. Well, before we take a break, Kenny, among the candidates for office, even among magistrates, we ask them about, and this is kind of a city thing, but it also involves county, the desire for a multi-purpose recreational facility that might include an indoor pool. And obviously, an effort like that is going to take a lot of partnerships. I mean, fiscal court can't build it. City of Bardstown can't build it. And there's always concern about its ongoing operation and how it's funded. But in general, would you support the county being involved in an effort to come up with a facility like that?
Absolutely, and I'll tell you why. And you'll get part of this because I went to a car show in Lebanon, and they've got an aquatic center over there. It is unbelievable. It is the most prettiest place you've ever seen, and it's in a section. It's not very far out of town. Everything is kept up just like a golf course. It's very meticulous, and I've talked to some people from Lebanon, and they just thought it was the greatest thing ever. If Lebanon can do it, why can't Nelson County do it? Marion County. Nelson County's got a lot more tax base than Marion County. If they can do it, we should be able to do it. And there's got to be some money out there somewhere. And grants or what else, something I'll look into. But I absolutely, we need something, and I'm getting up there, so we need something for our elderly people to do. We need something for our young kids to do. Absolutely. So, and that's twofold there. So, yes, sir, I'm 100% for it.
All right. Well, let's take a quick commercial break. And you're listening to Bradford Brooks and our interview with Kenny Downs, candidate for 5th District Magistrate. We'll be back in just a few moments. Please stay tuned. All right, you're back with Bradford Brooks. Jim Brooks and Margie Bradford with you this morning on this beautiful Wednesday morning here in downtown Bardstown. We'll be with you till the top of the hour, and then stay tuned to WBRT for NBC News and the best in local news and obituaries. All right, we're continuing our interview with 5th District Magistrate candidate Kenny Downs. And Kenny, you've told us about your construction experience, but I understand that you had done work up in Cincinnati area, but you've also worked on some bridges here. Is that right?
Yes, I've built 4 bridges in Nelson County. I built 2 at High Grove. I built one in Cox's Creek, and I built one on Plum Run. And Plum Run was in the 5th District. I built a bridge on right before when you turn off of Plum Run and take a right. It's right down the bottom of the hill. I built that bridge too.
So you would bring a lot of knowledge to the fiscal court and
as far as bridge work and concrete work, absolutely, and dirt work.
Well, that seems to be a pretty good preoccupation with people about their roads and their bridges. And
I tell you, I left my dad and went to work for the police department, and I had been on about 2 weeks, and I got hired on September 16th in 1988, and my boss came to me and he said, "Kenny, you need to go home for 4 days." And I looked at him and I said, "I can't afford to go home for 4 days. In Jefferson County Police, you had to buy your leather, you had to buy your weapon and everything. I spent $1,100 and I didn't have 11 cents. And I told him, I said, "I can't afford to go home." And he said, "You get paid for it." I said, "You're all paying me to go home?" He said, "Yes, you get 4 personal days. If you don't take them, you lose them." So I had till the first of the year to take them, and of course we weren't busy. So he told me, and you don't have that in construction. That's why I was telling you earlier. You work an hour, you get paid for an hour.
Right.
But
so you didn't have any. You didn't work on the bridge over Cox's Creek there on 31E, did you? On the old road.
I went down there one morning. They were just starting that job, and there was a guy on a backhoe. And I walked up to him and I said, of course, I'd worked away from home for a lot of years. And I thought, man, this is in Cox's Creek.
Yeah.
And so I asked him, I said, "Are y'all going to be doing any hiring?" He said, "No." He said, "We're not going to hire anybody. We got enough people." And I said, "Well, you see that rock over there?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "I'm going to be sitting on it every morning at 8 o'clock till y'all hire me." I ended up running that job before it was over. And then the one at High Grove, I ended up running that job before it was over. So like I said, if you're just persistent, and that's what I am, and I'll do that this whole time with the magistrate jobs, I'll be persistent. So,
well, Kenny, earlier you explained that when you put a new road in, you're actually putting in a dam.
That's pretty much
and so
true.
that helps explain to me the importance of culverts and cross drains. Because that water, you have to decide which way that water is going to go. And the county spends quite a bit of time either replacing culverts or repairing culverts or cleaning things out so that they continue to drain. And I mean, that's just part of ongoing road maintenance.
Right. Yeah. Most of the time when you put a culvert in, it's usually a 100-year plan. They go back 100 years and see what the worst was. Now, I saw the other day on television the floods in East Kentucky were worse than 1,000 years.
Yeah.
But most of the time they go back 100 years and they'll look at the worst rain that they had and they build that culvert to whatever that was. So it's 100-year plans what they usually go by.
Kenny, almost all the candidates we've spoken with, we've asked about the county jail, some of the issues that they're having, and what are your thoughts on that? On either modernizing the jail, renovating it, building a new one, or just adding services like a scanner?
Well, I was on the Nelson County Sheriff's Department. I was a bailiff in the courthouse, so I hauled prisoners back and forth. And most courthouses, the jail's right next to the courthouse, where you just go, like in Louisville, they bring them up from downstairs. So you don't have the going back and forth, hauling prisoners back and forth, which is really not safe. So I think the jail someday should be a lot closer to the courthouse.
To the Justice Center.
Instead, being Justice Center one end of town and the courthouse at the other. I think the jailer today has done a pretty good job as far as, I know they've had some problems with overdoses, which a lot of them are. I mean, in Louisville, it's unbelievable that people can get in with drugs in a place that's supposed to be secure like that. And I don't know what the remedy of that is, but I don't know a whole lot about the jail. I know the budget's, up there pretty good, but what are you going to do? I mean, if you put people in jail, you got to take care of them. And if we don't put them in jail, it's going to be a whole lot worse than what it is now. Do I agree? I think people ought to stay in jail more than what they do. But, every day it costs a lot of money. You got 3 meals you have to give them. And I see LaRue County over here a lot, working on the roads. Picking up trash, and I don't know if I think they used to do that. I think Jerry Hahn used to do that, and I don't know. I think they've gotten away from that. But I would be, like the chain gang, I would be all for that. Why?
Well, you'd have to have the personnel to do it,
right?
To begin with.
But they did it before, and I don't see why we can't do that again and clean up some of the roads that need to be cleaned up. And I live on Bloomfield Road, and you can't imagine the trash I get in one night. I mean, I can be mowing, and people will throw stuff out while I'm mowing. And I'm not a policeman anymore, but I sure wish I was. So, but it's unbelievable. But I don't know. I know the jail. If you don't hear anything about it, it's working okay. And I've heard a few things about the jail, and Dorcas did a great job, and I think
Buck.
Mr. Snellen,
Yeah.
I wanted to call him Buck, but I thought Mr. Snellen would be appropriate. But I think he's done a good job. I know he's not going to run anymore, but the 2 candidates that we have running for it, I think they both would do a great job. I'd have to look at some of the problems and see how the budget they've got, is a couple $1 million, and to see how we could, because people don't pay to go to jail,
Right.
So it's just like
It's just an expense that the county has to have.
that you have to have, exactly. And I know you can bring other prisoners in and get some state money, but then you get overcrowded and you're in the same problem. So I wish it was closer, though. I really do. I hope one day that the jail is built next to the Justice Center, where you can just walk across, get a prisoner, and come back. Because I tell you, one scenario, I drove to Prestonburg to pick up a prisoner, and Prestonburg was like 4 hours.
Yeah.
And on the way back, I asked him what he was wanted for, and he was wanted because he sold a magazine without a permit.
He sold a what?
They were selling magazines in Bardstown, and he didn't have a permit, so they cited him for it.
Oh.
And he didn't show up for court. So
you had to go all the way up there
I went to Prestonburg, and it took 4 hours, and brought him back, and then in court, and then you're supposed to take him back if Prestonburg if they've got warrants on him, you have to take him back. Now, in this case, he didn't. He was clear up there. They had arrested him on a warrant that Bardstown had. But I thought, man, that's a lot of money for something like that. But now I think they do a lot of video. They don't really. They still have to go get some prisoners. But I was in the fugitive unit when I was on Jefferson County Police, and I had to take care. I mean, we probably had 300 or 400 retainers on prisoners in other prisons that I had to call and make sure they were still there. And it was, I thought it was going to be a great job, but I wasn't there. I was about 7 or 8 months, and I said, y'all got to put me back out on the street because this is just way over my head. But it was fun. But I don't, I don't know. I'd have to look at some of the problems the jail has, and I'm not real familiar with the everyday activities down there. So that's something I'd have to look at. So.
Well, Kenny, the topic that's been addressed, been talked about a lot, is the need for a western bypass around Bardstown to try to keep some of the truck traffic out of downtown. And I know this isn't a 5th District issue, but it is a Nelson County issue. What are your thoughts on that? And of course, downtown Bardstown, which when I was a kid, I never would have imagined us having rush hour traffic. Between 3 and 6 o'clock,
unbelievable.
Getting through town can be a real chore, especially and then also with all the semis.
Oh my!
And then we've got a court square that a semi can't get around and has to take 2 lanes to get around, and that creates its own problems. But we can't fix that. What do you think about the need for a western bypass?
Well, what you said about tractor trailers coming down Main Street, I see these fuel trucks coming down Main Street. If one of those were to catch on fire, and especially Bloomfield, because coming down that hill, I can't imagine. Bloomfield would be gone. And there's no way you're going to put a gas fire out with 40,000 gallons of fuel. There's just no way. But, there's a lot of truck traffic. I guess the answer to that, is twofold, because the farmers don't want it, because it's going to split their farms up.
Right.
But, I guess you got to look to the future, and the traffic is getting terrible. Just like you said, it's every day you try to go somewhere, and you got school now that lets out at the same time the factories do, and and Heaven Hill's building a new distillery on 245, so when they let out, it's going to even be worse, because there's nothing you can do with the traffic. I mean, it's there. And it's funny that you mentioned going around the courthouse. I've got an old school bus, if anybody's ever seen it. It says it's too cool for school. And I brought it up to the courthouse and parked it when they had the massacre in Texas, the school kids, and I put a sign on the side of my bus that said, Nelson County's thinking about the victims in Texas.
Yeah. Had
a little memorial for them, had some flowers out there. Well, the judge told me, he said, you need to back that bus up a little bit because the trucks coming around here get in the grass. And so I remembered him telling me that, and every once in a while you can see the tires where they got up over the curb.
Sure can.
Pretty far. So, so that, for getting back to a safety thing, anytime that you can alleviate traffic, I think, and that's going to help everywhere.
Right.
I don't know what the cost of that is. I haven't looked into that, but we're gonna have to do something, because it's terrible trying to get through town.
Well, Kenny, fiscal court doesn't really have control over planning and zoning. The county has its appointees to the planning commission, just like the cities do. Are you satisfied with the way the planning and zoning and the commission operate here in Nelson County, or would you like to see changes one way or another?
Well, I've never had any dealings with them.
Okay.
You hear stories. I think planning and zoning is a great thing, and if you go to other counties and you see some of the things that people have done,
Right.
and then you come into Nelson County and you think, good Lord, I'm glad we didn't do that. And I mean, that's. I know sometimes people get frustrated with it, but they're just going by what the law tells them to do. And if they stretch the law, then they're not doing their job. And if it says a building's got to be 30 foot off the road, then you can't go 25 feet. You got to go 30. And all in all, I think they do a good job. I knew some of them on the planning commission, but I don't know any of them anymore. But I know it's one of those things that. It's not a popular thing, but it's needed very well. So,
well, just like you said, if you go to Grayson County, or a lot of the counties in Kentucky don't have countywide zoning, and when I worked in Grayson County at the newspaper, you could see a ramshackle shack and rundown mobile homes right next to a $300,000 house.
Right.
With no nobody had any recourse on, there was no way to remedy that situation. The people in the house just had to deal with their neighbor.
Right. Marshtown was voted most beautiful city in America. Well, I think Nelson County is the most beautiful county in America, so I'm kind of partial about that. So,
well, Kenny, this may not be a fair question, but what makes you a better candidate than your opponent?
Well, for one thing, I'm retired. All I have to do is get the grass cut. If I get the grass cut, I'm a free man. So I eat lunch with a bunch of guys every day that I went to school with, and after lunch they kind of scatter, and I'm by myself. So, I'm too old to be a policeman anymore, although I wish I could do it because I love being a policeman and a fireman, but I'm too old to do that. You just got to look in the mirror and say, hey, you can't do this anymore. But this is a perfect job for me because I like dealing with people. I like solving problems. I'm experienced as far as the construction part of it and the budgets. I'm experienced because I was a former business owner. I live in the 5th District. of course you got to, but I've lived there for about 22 years. And I just, with my time and my experience and dealing with people that I've been involved with my whole life, I've solved problems. I just love to get this job. I told you all earlier before we came on the air, I have no idea what it pays. And that's the God's truth. I have no idea, and I don't care. I'm not doing it for the money. Of course, the money's, you get paid money. It's great. But right. I'm at a time in my life where I don't have a lot of money, but I'm not hurting either, and I can go on and live on what my income is now. But I enjoy fixing problems, and if I can help the public do anything, then this is an opportunity for me to do it.
It's just a continuation of your public service.
No, exactly.
Well, I was going to say, Kenny, you've got lots of years of experience working with the public, because that's a lot of it. Your job as a magistrate, you're going to be answering that phone. Mm-hmm. And dealing and talking to the public.
Right, exactly.
And answering questions or finding those answers out.
On the police department, we'd have somebody new come in, and I wouldn't be their training officer. I was a training officer for a long time, and I would go to them and I'd say, look, here's my phone number. If you got a problem, don't go to your training officer and ask them. Call me, and I'll see if I can help you out. Well, I had several of them do that. But I had a friend of mine that made sergeant, and he retired not long ago, and this is the biggest compliment I ever got. He called me, and he said, Kenny, he told me who it was, and he said, I'm getting ready to retire, and he said, I just want you to know that every time I got into something that I wasn't sure what to do, he said, I would go back and say, how would Kenny Downs handle this? And I thought, you know what, that's the biggest compliment I ever received. And I told him that. I said, man, that's just unbelievable. And he was truthful about it. So, because I kind of took him under my wing and got him through some times that, because he was a kid. When I got hired, I was 34.
Right.
And, these kids, they come on at 18 and they work the desk. And then, of course, at 21, then they'd come right into the police department. And, I was 34 and he's 21, and I thought, man, he's just a kid out here with a uniform on.
Right.
But I ended up making sergeant, and he moved up the ladder, and he's done really well, and he retired. But when he called and told me that, I thought, man, what a compliment. So anyway, but.
Well, Kenny, is there anything else you'd like to leave with our listening audience?
I live in District 5, which, that's part of the job. And I've lived in District 5 for almost 22 years. My commitment is to work hard for the citizens of Nelson County, and especially for District 5, and make all the problems that arise in District 5 my priority. And I sincerely ask for the vote on November the 8th, and let me go to work for you.
All right.
Well, listening to your story, it sounds like you've had experience in almost all the areas that fiscal court covers.
Well, just get me in there.
Police and fire and roads. And
I was telling you earlier, police, I think the life expectancy for firefighters is first and police is second. So I've been both. So, I don't know, who knows, I might pass away before I get done with this interview, but anyhow, I've done just about everything. So, and I was fortunate to work for my dad. I just wish when I worked for my dad.
Well, you bring a wealth of experience to the job.
Well, I didn't realize that my the pressure my dad was under, because we were making like $20 an hour, and 40 guys standing there making that kind of money. And I think if I had it to do over, I worked hard, but I think I'd probably put more effort in, not arguing with him maybe so much. But anyway.
Yeah.
That's part of being a son.
Listen,
I guess.
we all go through that.
I know.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this week's Bradford and Brooks. Our guest on next Wednesday is M.T. Harnett, Republican candidate for Magistrate in District 3. That's going to do it for this week. Thank you all for listening, and we'll be back next Wednesday with another Bradford and Brooks. Till then, have a great week, everybody.